I know you're gonna dig this.
This is RHINE McLIN, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles, recorded live here at DATV Studios in Dayton, Ohio. Zooming in all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada is Mr. Billy Nunn, songwriter, keyboardist, and producer with the punk group Rick James and the Stone City Band. Welcome and thank you for agreeing to come on our show. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. And thank you. I really appreciate it. This is quite an honor.
Well, we're going to get started. And the first thing I want to start off with is, how did you get interested in music and work your way up to being with Rick James?
Oh, getting into music. I mean, my dad was a sax player and tremendous vocalist. So, we always heard music around the house. And a neighbor, friend of my mom's, gave her an album. Walk on the Wild Side was on the album. It was Bashin' by Jimmy Smith. Edith Ingram and my mom, they were in the Columbia Record Club. You remember that?
Oh, yes.
You pay like, 99 cents and you get 120 albums. So I heard Jimmy Smith, and I don't know, I got bit by the organ bug. So I just really, turned me out on it.
Billy, how old were you when you started? When you started really knowing that you wanted to get into music?
I was actually about 16, 17 years old. I was in high school, and there was a guy, Jimmy Davis, who was a year ahead of me at our high school. And when he graduated during the summer, I'd go over his house, and he'd show me, a couple of things that, I was wondering about. And so he helped me a great deal. And from then, a lot of albums, listening and sitting at a little piano and just trying to pick stuff out.
So how did you know that the organ was what you wanted to play?
Like I said, I look back now and I still don't know. But it was something about that album, Bash and on Verve Records by Jimmy Smith, that I don't know. Like I said, I always call it the organ bug bit me, but thank God.
well, now, how did you learn to play the organ?
Like I said, between the little tips and stuff that Jimmy Davis would show me, basically I just listened to all the albums, all the organ players that were out there.
So
Jimmy Smith, Jimmy McGriff, Jack McDuff, And I'd sit at the piano and try to pick notes out,
So basically, you were self-taught.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
As they would say, you played by ear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Jimmy Smith and I can recall Jimmy Smith. There was somebody McDuff.
Jack McDuff.
Yeah, the play. So and they played that B3 organ.
Oh yeah, that was the instrument.
Yeah.
We call it the Beast because it's so big and weighs so much. But I mean, like I said, it was Jimmy, Jack McDuff, Jimmy McGriff, Don Patterson, Larry Young, Big John Patton, Groove Holmes. It was the thing to be playing back then. You know.
And you know, like at a supper club or wherever they were, they would have this. It would take so much to get that instrument in to the building.
Oh yeah. Well, after dollies came out, where you could sit it on these dollies that had the wheels that would lift up. Up until then, it was like at least 4 to 5 guys, you know, moving that thing. It weighed about 450, 475 pounds. You know, and that's without the Leslie speaker or the bench or the foot pedals.
Do you still have one?
It was a task.
Do you still have one?
Yes. In fact, I still do. Yeah, I have one. A friend of mine has a studio, Rob Simon. I have my. It's actually a BC. It's so old. It was made in 1939. You know, and it's kind of like a relic, but those things, they don't never wear out. You know, they play just as good the first day you bought them.
So when you were so your career started like when you were probably in high school, if you're 16 or 17. So you started really, what was your first band experience or your first public playing?
What's funny, in high school, the first band experience, I was singing, actually. I was with, we had a group called the Four Andantes, and we'd go from high school to high school singing a cappella before our high school jazz band played. So it was like me, Levi Ruffin, Roger Brown, Calvin Moore. We do like, you know, The Time. I don't know if you remember that group.
Oh, yeah.
As we stroll along. Yeah, you know, anyway. We do stuff like that a cappella. But then, during that course of months, that's when I got the organ bug. So by the time of our senior year, I wasn't thinking much about singing. I was actually, you know, wanting to get into the playing a lot more. I had met Jack McDuff, and he kind of like took a liking to me because I was like 17 years old, and he used to let me sit on the bench with him, and I'd sit there and learn and watch, and George Benson was playing with him at that time, and Red Holloway, and Joe Duke. So that was like a real learning experience, you know, sitting at the McDuff and actually watching what was taking place between the two hands and the foot pedals. Yeah, it was a blessing.
So after that, and so what was your first real gig?
Actually, it was with a vibe player out of Springfield, Ohio, named Johnny Lytle. And at the time, he had a couple of like jazz hits. He had his first hit was like a song called "The Village Caller."
Yes.
But so he was the vibe player. He needed an organ player. The drummer, Joselle Carter, hit me up for the gig, and I was like on the road with him about 3 years. So I kind of like really grew up. Mentally, physically, and musically. I mean, you know, when you start out and you're like 17, 18 and on the road and you're out there with the heavies, you know. So I learned how to play, actually, like what I call it. It's like playing jazz is totally different than, you know, funk. You know, R&B or whatever. When you play jazz, you got to learn it and you got to play it. You know, ain't no jiving around and bulling with it. You know, you got to learn chord changes, how to solo off of them, and, you know, so that's what I learned actually being with Johnny Lytle. And after that, I mean, you know, when I got into funk, funk's a feeling. If you don't get the feeling, yeah, it ain't happening. But, I mean, musically wise, you know, it wasn't dangerous or scary.
Okay, so when did you transfer from jazz to the funk?
Well, just so happened my dad, like I said, he had a club in Buffalo called Jan's Supper Club, right on Main Street. And he brought in different groups. He brought in the Soft Tones. They had a record out at that time, My Dream. He had Blue Magic. They had Spell that was out. He had the Dynamic Superiors before Shoo Shoo Shine. And they'd come to my dad's club, and none of them had a keyboard player. So I'd sit in with all of them when they'd come, you know, to the club. Because, I mean, even though I was into jazz, on the weekends, I was listening to basically, you know, R&B and, you know, all kind of stuff. And always opened up my ears. I mean, you know, I was listening to Chicago back when they first came out, you know, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. You know, so many different groups, you know. So, I mean, I used to love the Beatles. Yeah, I'd sit there and listen to them and have two little drumsticks trying to play along, you know. It was like a blessing to me to open up my ears and accept all kinds of music. So that's what it was. The funk, yeah, like I said, it's a feeling. And if you got it in you, you know, it works usually all the time, you know. Between you and the drummer and the bass player, that's when it really starts kicking in.
Let's talk about your dad. You already mentioned that your dad had a supper club, but your dad is for Buffalo, New York. I mean, your dad's a very historic person on what he contributed to the music business. Let's talk about what your dad did. Besides having the club, what else did your dad do?
Well, I said, yeah, he was the first black to have his own recording label and studio, which was in our basement, you know. So you got to listening to, you know, all the Motown stuff, and I think at that time Brunswick Records was out and the stuff out of Chicago. So he decided he wanted to start a record label, and he wanted to make Mo-Do. So that's how Mo-Do Records came about, you know, with him wanting to make Mo-Do. But it was great. I mean, my brother Bobby, him and the guy across the street, they had a group, Bob and Jean, and they put out some local hits back then. And I think my brother Bobby really tuned his craft up with writing, you know, being in the basement. I mean, we recorded a lot of people when I'd come home or be playing in Buffalo, you know, in the basement. We were doing gospel groups. We were doing, you know, people doing R&B, male, female, all of it, you know.
So how long did the studio last? How the record label last?
Wow. Exactly, I'm not sure. It had probably at least a good 10 years or more, I mean, till he got to the point where, you know, he was just kind of tired of, you know, doing all the recordings. But a lot of the stuff that we did in the basement is being used today. One of the songs from Bob and Jean is in the Tyler Perry movie, Why Did I Marry Two? And then one of them's in Forrest Whitaker movie, I think, something about a honeymoon. But what's funny, the stuff we did back in the 60s is now being, licensed and placed in different spots. He did have a vision,
Oh yeah, and he had a vision, and he goes and he has a historic notation, and,
oh,
and
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
extremely important because what I read about him was that he was started out not only about the Modo, but the fact that it was another way to take kids off the streets from getting
Oh,
in
yeah.
gangs and being
Yeah.
allowed to do musical expressions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of people used to be in that basement. And, I remember we covered the whole basement with like milk cartons one time, to help absorb the sound. We stapled milk cartons all around the studio, But he'd read up on things, and we'd try it, and I said he carried his. Back then he had like a reel-to-reel machine, 2-track, and he carried that around, and we'd be playing in Rochester. He'd bring it up there and record and stuff. My dad was a blessing.
Your dad was an entrepreneur by having a supper club and having his own recording studio, and then not only that, he had talented sons. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I mean, that was a total package of blessings right there.
And he had a day gig,
Oh.
He worked at a place called Trico in Buffalo, and Trico made windshield wipers. And I mean, he started off in there probably, helping on the assembly line or whatever. But he then became the first black union leader of Trico in Buffalo, so he never stopped. You couldn't get him to slow down.
So you come from a very work ethic background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom, she, everybody knows my mom from being a school crossing guard back when we were all in grammar school. And the school was like a half a block from where we lived. So my mom would be at the corner for school 37. And I mean, there's people now, I get all kind of Facebook messages who blessed to still be alive. Her birthday was yesterday, in fact, September 2nd. And I got so many messages, from people that remember her being a school crossing guard there, man. It is amazing.
So tell me some of the exciting things that you have done or leading up to. Let's talk about how did you get to Rick James? You haven't told me that story yet, and I need to hear that.
How did I get to where now?
With Rick James and the Stone
Oh.
Bang. How did you get to that?
Who was that? No, just kidding. I had been with a group of soft tones out of Baltimore for about 3 years. I'd been living in Baltimore. We were touring. We had been to Japan 3 times, and one of the times we were there, we opened for the Miracles. Billy Griffin and them. They had a Love Machine album out then, and so soft tones, we'd open for them, but then at that time they didn't have a keyboard player. So, I'd sit in with them on, some of the stuff I knew, and then talk came about of, maybe me getting a gig with them. And it didn't go through, so the April of 77, I went back to Buffalo, and my brother and Vanessa Brooks introduced me to Rick she had introduced my brother Bobby to Rick, and then he had just got back from Toronto. He had been living up there. He was a draft dodger, and then when President Carter granted amnesty, he was able to come back down to Buffalo. So I met him that way, like April of '77, and we just clicked, got along. You know, he had an apartment, 210 Delaware, and we'd go up there and be instruments up in there, and we'd, you know, just sit around and try to create some stuff. You know, maybe hit a joint or two, and you know, just have fun. We did it every day and every night. At night, we go hang out at the V Room, the Vermilion Room in Buffalo, and, you know, just listening to the new stuff and, you know, trying to get ideas to help the songs that he wanted us to help him with, you know, record.
So
And
you helped him write
it was
Mary
cool,
You helped him write
because we were all
Jane.
equal then.
You helped him write Mary Jane, correct? You helped him write Mary Jane?
Yeah. Yep. I did the music. Rick did the lyrics. Yeah. It was,
Tell me about how that.
first of all, let me, oh, go ahead.
No, how did that come about? That you all actually that you played the music, he wrote the songs, and you.
Well, what happened with Rick was
How
he
did it
had
all
some
come together?
songs, and he needed some musicians, you know, that could play to record the stuff with him. So that's what I did a lot of, you know, by hanging with him, getting kind of whatever little basic structure of songs that he had. So, I mean, when we did You and I, see, first of all, there are two Stone City bands on the Come Get It album. If Stone City Band was basically a concept Rick had for his group, but the musicians that played on side one of Come Get It, that's You and I, Sexy Baby, there's whatever songs are on the first side, consisted of Lorenzo Shaw on drums, his brother Richard Shaw on bass, my brother Bobby on keys, myself on keys, and Fast Freddie Rapello on guitar. That was basically the rhythm section for Stone City Band, as he called it. The Brecker brothers came down from New York and put the horns on the first side of the album. They were on You and I and the other songs that are on there with horns. High on Your Love Suite, which made it on the Bustin' Out album, the second album. So after basically money conflicts with Rick, my brother and Sasha Rose, she was the vocalist, and Richard and Lorenzo Shaw didn't want to complete some more songs with him that Motown wanted him to do. So I stuck around, and he came and showed me one day a B on the bass and an A. Boom, boom. So he said, hey, man, I need you to help me finish this. We write it together, we split it. So I said, cool, no problem. So I put chords to them two notes, which was V minor to an A seventh or whatever, and then did verses, did the bridge. And for years I never told anybody. Low Down by Boz Scaggs was like my inspiration for Mary Jane. Because if you sing the verses on Low Down and slow them down, you can sing Mary Jane too. After that, you know, I wrote a totally different bridge, a totally different flute parts, with his string parts are different, but, you know, so that was basically it, you know, the backgrounds, and we recorded it at Record Plant in New York, and I'm the only black guy in the rhythm section, even though I co-wrote it. You know, so Freddie Rapello, who was a guitar player, his brother Andy was the bass player, and Mike Caputi was on drums. So that's the basic rhythm section on side 2 of Come Get It, which is Be My Lady, Mary Jane, and Hollywood. So totally different group. Yeah.
But Mary Jane was a very popular song.
Yeah, it's about 42 years old. Yeah, we wrote it in 77, recorded it at the end of 77, and it came out on the album, which was 420 of 78. But, you know, unfortunately, I got beat out of co-writing the song on the paperwork. But Rick was supposed to kick me down under the table. We were boys, and, you know, I guess probably what I call the hoopla must have got in him because, you know, he never really wanted to acknowledge me co-writing it, you know. And so I'm in, like, trying to get an entertainment lawyer now. I'm trying to battle to get, you know, not necessarily 42 years of royalties, but get my name on the copyright. I mean, it's still making money. And I feel good. I mean, it's an achievement that a lot of people don't get a chance to do, you know, write a hit song. You know, so I'm in that process.
Yes, and, you know, it's one of those things that when you're young and you're in business, when you don't know the business and you enjoy doing what you're doing, sometimes folks do take advantage of you, so. But everything, I believe, works out for the best, and Billy, you still got it going on, so it hasn't hurt you.
Oh yeah, I have no complaints. You know, I said God gave me this gift to play, and I'm still at it. You know, it's unfortunate Rick is gone. He's been gone, 15, 16 years. And I still get a chance to, you know, try to help people, try to enlighten people, you know, lift the spirits, you know, with my music. You know, I'm working on a TV show of mine, None at One, and trying to do a video book, actually, called Don't Start Me to Lying, which was my mom's favorite saying. Back in the old days, somebody be gossiping and asking, and she say, look, don't start me to lying. So that's kind of like what my video book is about, which will unveil some, you know, musical secrets and you know, stuff like that.
You got inducted into the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame. Tell me about that experience.
Oh, that was, it was, I got a call from one of the guys back there. I think it was Richard Sargent or something, and he said that you're being nominated for 2015 Buffalo Hall of Fame Awards. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. I did a lot of paperwork because in actuality, a lot of people back there didn't know who I was and stuff. So I had to, you know, just come up with some documents, couple of album cover pictures or whatever, you know. But I flew back, and the same day they were processing the do-rags in the Hall of Fame back in Buffalo. But I mean, it was a great, unbelievable, unexpected experience, and I just wish my mom and dad had been alive to see it, but I know they were looking down. But I mean, who would have thought?
But I just wanted to highlight that because that is such an accomplishment, especially to be recognized in your own community.
Oh yeah. And I said it's a blessing to still be alive and playing.
So tell me now, Billy, what are you doing now?
Well, like I said, right now I'm trying to work on this TV show, None at One, and it's like a musical comedy, tutorial, informative interviews, live stream jams. It's like big ball of entertainment. I have like different co-hosts. I have Mr. Levi Ruffin, who was other keyboard player with Rick, and we'll probably do like a Chappelle, Charlie Murphy thing, because Levi was there through all the drama of Rick, Tina, Mary Jane Girls, Process of the Do-Rags, Val Young. I mean, all the things that were happening in the Stone City Band camp and everything. A lot of funny stuff, a lot of tragic. But he'll be telling tales with me, and we'll be doing some jams together, and we'll do tutorials showing people what we really played on Rick's stuff. And I've seen a lot of people play it, and not exactly correct. They have it wrong, but that's no problem. So we'll be doing stuff like that, and I'll be doing like organ B3 tutorials also, showing licks that Jimmy did and McDuff, and everybody's doing piano on YouTube. You say how to play such and such. You punch it in. Some great players showing you the right chords and everything, but nobody's doing any organ, not the real way. Okay, so I'm going to try to do that. And then, like I said, the book, video book, just trying to keep busy, especially with this craziness around us.
With the COVID.
Yeah.
Are you still playing? Are you still doing any gigs or anything like that?
Well, since pandemic, haven't been in any gigs. I mean, I've been over a few close friends, either doing recordings or, we'll sit up in there and do a little bit of jamming between maybe 3 or 4 of us. But I think it's going to be a while before they get entertainment back in the casinos. They trying to get that money back in there that they lost with the gambling. So I think, until they figure out a way how to be kind of safe to have people in lounges again or in the showrooms again. Sometime next year for sure, if then.
Well, I'm going to ask you to name me 3 highlights of your career so far and 3 learning experiences that you've had from your career thus far.
I mean, I said I look back and I've had some of like the, greatest experiences that I can't sum it up. I mean, it's just like insane. That's why on my website, billynunn.com, I've got so many pictures, luckily, and back then everybody didn't have cameras and especially videos, but I've been blessed, with a lot of footage from different situations and a ton of pictures. I'm still, I'm still at it and still probably the best is yet to come, really.
What about some of your experiences while traveling in Europe or Japan? I mean, that should be unique experiences that when you were in Japan and Europe.
I mean, yeah. I think with the soft tones, I went over there, Japan with them at least 3 times. It may have been 4. 3 times with them. Then I was with the Buck Ram Platters, which was an experience. We went to Osaka, well, you know, which I'd done with the soft tones also, but being a member of the Buck Ram Platters, Buck Ram was the gentleman that wrote all the hits for the Platters, Only You, Great Pretender. And so if you're a member of the Buck Ram Platters, that was kind of like a cosign on the legit side, because, you know, singers will be in a group and they'll leave and they'll start their own group. You know, so there have been a few Platters around, a few coasters, a few drifters, but depending on which ones you were with, depended on your status of basically like getting the props on it. But the Buck Ram Platters were like supposed to be the legit Platters because of Buck Ram and Gene Bennett, his wife. Yeah. So I mean, I did that, and the jazz experience probably was the most enlightening, because finally I'm out there doing what I've been listening to on records for so long, you know. I'm saying, wow, now I'm doing it, you know, and it's still happening. I'm going to do some organ things, because like I said, you know, you're hearing everybody on piano. And I never was a piano player. Organ and piano, 2 different instruments. They're keyboards per se, but the style of playing them is 2 different animals.
What is the biggest lesson you have learned thus far as a musician, entertainer, writer, overall musician?
Learn how to play, okay? Cutting and pasting, anybody can do that. That doesn't make you a musician or a songwriter, actually. You know, learn how to play an instrument, you know. Learn as much as you can about, you know, you don't have to get too deep into the theory of music and all of that. I mean, you know, it gets to a point where it's mathematical and there's certain formulas, but, you know, one should learn how to play an instrument, and it gives you a broader side of real music, you know. And then learn the music business. Don't trust nobody and get it in paper, you know.
I would like to ask you 2 things. One is, why do you think that the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center is important? And number 2 is, what is funk to you?
Well, David called me some years back. In fact, you'll probably have to ask him, and I'll have to ask him. He had kind of like gave me a little title up in there, like I don't know, something like an ambassador to help with the funk music situation. But I mean, it's a great idea that he put together, and the city of Dayton deserves it. I mean, I talked to all my musician friends. No other city in the world put out as many funk great groups as Dayton, Ohio. They rule. You know, no other city in the world, and it will never happen again. You know. So it's like you know, to be a part of anything to me is an honor. You know, because who would have thought? I mean, it's not promised to none of us. So when things happen to you that people show that they like and love what you're doing, I mean, it's unbelievable feeling, you know, sometimes. It's like, you know, when you're playing and you're in the zone, as we call it, you know, that same feeling. And then when you get all the applause and everything, we, you know, touch some people's lives. Can't beat it, you know.
Thank you so much. That was just so inspiring.
Oh, we finished?
You have something else you want to tell me, Billy?
I'm just playing now. Yeah. Maybe, you know, one day I'll probably do a part 2 or something, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I really appreciate it, though.
Well, I've really enjoyed the interview, the fact that we have been able to talk about your dad and his vision and his historic notability in Buffalo, New York. You receiving, being inducted into the Buffalo Hall of Fame. Those are all extremely important, and it's important that if we don't tell our story, nobody's going to tell it, and we have an opportunity to share with so many people about what a Billy Nunn has done and is doing. I thank you.
I thank you. And hey, any lawyers out there, hit me up.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This is RHINE McLIN, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles. Until the next time, keep it funky.